check if we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
0 people right now. Just while we wait for people to join us. Let's give it 20 or 30 seconds before I know that some people will eventually soon be joining the Tuesday tune-in.
I think the longer we hash it out, like soon, any minute now.
Do you reckon that is the case?
Yay, Sophie here, she's first.
Great stuff. Hey Sophie, how you doing? I was going to check if we're live, but I will. Now I know. Sophie is the first one today. She stepped away from her raving to join us on the Tuesday tune-in.
Sophie a raver?
You don't know?
No, I don't think so. She's a raver. She's a
cheesy
quaver.
Raving. Hey Sophie, how you doing? Who else has joined us then? Oh, we got Evertrack on here. Great stuff. We got David. How you doing, David? Sam, Angus, Josh, Tesh, Dan Von Koik as well. Great to see you all. I hope all is well on this lovely Tuesday afternoon in August. I can't bloody believe we're in August.
It is horrendously bad for August.
It is, isn't it?
Like,
where's our summer?
I know we had a really good spring where there was a lot of really hot weather.
Yeah.
But why? Like, if I turn the camera out that window now, it just looks like a grey, miserable October day.
But you know what's lucky?
What's that?
There's plenty of sun in here. Plenty of light in here, Dave.
There is, yeah.
No, I mean like the light in
the we bring.
Exactly,
right.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't matter about the weather outside.
No, not at all. and unless you're a mountain biker or a hiker, what time is it? Yeti time. Same Yeti time, same Yeti channel.
It is. Hey, Bri, how you doing? Hey, Will, Jerome, Zach. Yeah, Zach, it's looking good, eh? Looking good. Zach's off today, but we managed to set it up without him, so great stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was actually really easy without him, wasn't it? It was remarkably easy without him.
It was. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Hey, Stuart, Jambo. 2 days to go. Wow. Kiki, here I come. Stuart, I know where you're going. It's not Kiki. We're not going to Hawaii, mate. Right, today... Jerome, new office. No, this is so basically this is the we got a few rooms in the office. This is where normally we have lunch. This is actually called the mess tent. The summit zone's behind us, which is where we have some of our team meetings.
It's also the same place we've been doing it for about a month.
I was going to say, Jerome, you've been on a few of these.
I know what it is. Jerome is this.
Do you think that's what because you're wearing glasses? Wow.
I think I look better without them.
I don't know.
Or with them.
Leave them on.
I can't read the comments on the screen. I haven't got one.
Brilliant. No, it's great. We wanted to talk a little bit around trek difficulty levels because we've seen some questions and comments and also some feedback on certain trips as well. And I thought it's really good to talk about it. And, especially on like if anyone's ever been on our website, which I know a lot of you have, you'll see that each trip has a little level on it. And this level kind of reflects what we think is the difficulty, but it is clear. I think, looking at a lot of the adventure world, the trek difficulty is quite a big gauge.
Yeah.
We try and put words on it and explanations and video content and things like that to kind of explain, but sometimes you just don't know until you're out there. But we thought we'd talk about it today anyway, like open forum, any questions about any of our trips, around trek difficulty. What would be good for a first timer? What would be good maybe if it was your second or third trip? Also, as well, we do get this quite a lot, is that if you've gone out to altitude and you've struggled for, in your first trip, we want to look, okay, well, what's next for you? What's the next kind of adventure look like?
Yeah.
Definitely an open kind of chat today around that. Obviously, me and Dave will start it off.
Yeah.
And talk about trek difficulty because it is. I mean, we all. Even the first time before we went to altitude, we're asking how hard is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually a bit of a difficult question to answer because, we can tell people the treks are hard.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people come back and they go, oh yeah, it's all right, actually, it wasn't too bad. Other times people come back and say, no, you really should have told us it was hard. And I was well, what hard means for one person is not the same as another. It's also not the same for the individual every time they go.
Yeah.
We've done Everest Base Camp 4 times now, and I can tell you that I found it easier on some occasions than another.
True.
And so what is it that actually makes a trek difficult and for you, So obviously, there is a broad range of treks that you can do and you can look at them. So we know Aconcagua is more difficult than Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is probably more difficult than the Inca Trail, so broadly speaking, we can pinpoint,
the gauge.
We've got that gauge.
Yeah.
But then also when you get down into, well, how difficult is Kilimanjaro itself? It's a difficult one to answer because it does depend on the individual. It depends on the training, the fitness level, the mindset plays a big role. And I actually suffer with that myself. Sometimes if I'm on a hard day's trek, all of a sudden, and I don't know where it is, it's usually like towards the end, or if I've underfueled, I'll have this thought in my head like, oh, I just want to get back to the car, and if that creeps in, it makes the trek 10 times harder. Time seems to drag out.
I can impact it. I think, and we didn't want to start off on the mindset stuff, but it certainly plays a part. When the difficulty of it comes in and you're having a bit of a bad moment, it can certainly make it a little bit harder. But I think where we wanted to start was we've put our kind of our version of how we think that the trek is like. It's really interesting because we do get varied feedback. Like personally, when I did Kilimanjaro a few years ago now, and obviously I haven't done Everest Base Camp 5 times, I always kind of envisioned and thought that Kilimanjaro would be harder, and Summit Night was. The rest of the trip was relatively not easy, because none of the treks that we ever do are going to be that easy. They might be, we might label them as moderate or gentle or something like that, but none of the trips we do are easy. And I think for me, I certainly found Kili harder than Base Camp. I think purely because of that Summit Night, the tiredness, not necessarily the physicality of it, but the overall challenge, which is great. And that now I've got a personal gauge I can share and say, for me, Kili was harder than Everest Base Camp. But I know we've had vice versa. We've had Evertrekkers who've gone out and done Kilimanjaro first, and then they did Everest Base Camp, and they actually found Everest Base Camp more challenging.
Yeah,
it can. Well, it can be quite. It's tough, isn't it? Because you want to be honest and open with everyone, and us. We like to tell you how it is before you go on any trip. And it's kind of a good. Definitely, the gauge in our mind is sometimes harder than the one we write about.
Yeah, I mean, well, Kili and EBC is an interesting one because it's the one that probably gets compared the most.
Yeah,
because it's the two most popular trips that we run.
Yeah,
and there are different factors that makes one more difficult than the other.
Yeah.
So Kilimanjaro, really, it's about Summit Night. If you didn't have to do Summit Night, Kilimanjaro would be a relatively easy trek. But then on EBC, you don't really have any one day that's as intense as Summit Night, but you do spend a longer time at a higher altitude.
Yeah.
So you spend, once you get to sort of Dingboche, that's like, 4.4, 2 days at 4.4, then you go to 4.9 at Lobuche, then you're at 5.1 in Gorekshep, then you're back to like 4.4 again. You don't spend that much time at that high altitude on the Kilimanjaro trip.
That's true, actually. You're up and down quite quick. I mean, it's still a difficult one, isn't it? But that Summit Night is really when it comes to the 4.
I mean, Summit Night is like it's sort of like climbing Ben Nevis in terms of its actual altitude gain.
In terms of the gain,
it's probably steeper. It's at night. It's going up to nearly 6,000 meters.
Sounds awesome.
So it takes a lot. It takes a lot longer, but it is an interesting one. These difficulty gauges and where one sits according to the other. I actually probably made an incorrect assumption about Mount Toubkal.
Especially the weekender. It's exactly, and sometimes you don't know until you go out there. And obviously, we've got a lot of trips on the roster now, and there's some we'd love to do all of them. We haven't done all of them, but Toubkal was certainly one that, from a physicality point of view, in terms of what it takes out of your legs and your body and your mind, it is actually quite challenging.
That 4-dayer is a beast.
Altitude-wise, not so much in our opinion, but it can surprise you.
Do you know, it's interesting though, because when we first went to Kilimanjaro, to Mount Toubkal, we met these. I think they were Norwegians. And one of them showed me a video of one of his mate going to the summit, and he was like almost like wobbling and apparently really suffering with the altitude. I actually think that's probably a rare circumstance on Toubkal. Most people are okay with the altitude. You certainly feel it because you do go up to above 4,000 meters. It's over 1,000 meters of ascent, right? Or less than
no, it is. No, it is.
It's over 1,000 meters in a
it's
set.
almost.
And
1,000 meters up, 1,000 meters down, and then if you're doing the weekender, it's also the 1,300 meter descent back to Imlal, which is a toughie after being up since
that's a bowl of laughs.
It's a good challenge. I've done it. It's a good challenge.
But it's not. I guess the difficulty thing when we're factoring in like what label do we put on those trips?
Yeah,
it's not all about the altitude, is it? You know, so it's not all about the altitude. It's about sort of, you know, we have to factor in like the amount of miles you do in what space of time, because if you have 2 or 3 big days in a row, that's probably way more intense than an 8-day trip where you have like fewer days in a row. Which is why the 8-day Tupkal trip is less intense than the 4-day. You know,
it's not camping.
And if I would say the 4-day, well,
I took you a while there. I thought you were going to miss that.
But it, like, for instance, if the 4-day one we said was like tough, the 8-day would be challenging. You know,
definitely.
But actually, that's almost counterintuitive. You think the longer one would be more difficult.
So I'm just reading some of the comments. Great questions as well. We will come back to these. Emily, hey Emily, I hope all is well. We'll be taking on your question, Anne about Machu Picchu, Jerome as well about TMB. Yeah, we will. We'll definitely come on to these. Machu Picchu Hidden Valley. Good knowledge, Anne. Compared to the Inca Trail, exactly which one is harder, right? We'll come on to that. But Dave, you did hit on a good point there, and something that, because the difficulty level is sometimes about the altitude, and everyone performs differently on different trips, because your body can be in a different place, your mind can be in a different place. So it could be difficult one day or one trip where you're proper acclimatized, you looked after your hydration, your body was in a good spot, and then the next time you go, it could seem really hard, or vice versa, because your body was different, and then in your mind, then you perceive that to be more challenging than another time.
Happened to me.
Exactly.
Tupkal.
It can, exactly.
You know, first trip I went to Tupkal, I was shocked by how difficult I found it, but largely because I wasn't very well. I couldn't sort of even access the fitness that I had. And so the first trip that I did, I remember thinking like, my God, like this is the worst trip I've ever done. I never want to do it again. I feel utterly terrible. And of course I did do it again. I booked it back in immediately. So a few months later I went back, and I remember dreading 2 days. It wasn't even summit day. It was the walk to the refuge and the walk back, because the previous time I did it, being so unwell, I felt awful. When I got to the refuge the first time, honest to God, I felt like I reached that. I was so happy. I was like, I could do that again. I was almost a punch in the air moment. And then when I walked back, I remember thinking, oh God, this feels like it goes on forever. Next thing you know, I'm back. And just a change in mindset, a little change in health, a little change in fitness, and transformed the trip.
So then the kind of gauge then changes in your mind, right?
100%. Like, so I thought the first time when I failed to get to the summit of Tupkal, I wanted to invent a new level, just called brutality. Is that so? We're going to introduce that one.
We're going to introduce brutality.
That's brutality is where we do you do Aconcagua like 4 times in a row. But that is brutal. But it does change, and something you said at the beginning there, that it depending on how you are, how your fitness is, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have the same experience twice. And so what we can hopefully do is impart some knowledge at the beginning to tell you, okay, this trek is tough, and these are the reasons why it's tough, and these are the reasons that you can make it feel less tough. So you can go out and you can increase your train and you can increase your strength. On this particular trek, there's a lot of loose terrain, so actually doing some practice and walking on that is really good. One thing I found really good is working on, if you're like constantly on loose terrain that's slippy, having good core is good. And it's something I never thought about, because when you are on loose ground and your feet moving backboard, if you have a strong core and you're carrying it back, it makes it so much easier.
I suppose, because you're not slipping and sliding everywhere.
Exactly.
That's a good point. And, I know we're kind of talking broadly now. I know we haven't kind of honed in on any particular trips specifically yet. But going through that kind of our gauge is we put gentle in there. Now, gentle's not really a word we generally use on our trips.
Have we got any that are gentle?
We just put the training weekend in there.
They're not even that gentle.
Well, I didn't have a word that could describe that kind of level. But we want this just to and I know a lot of other kind of operators and companies that they do a similar thing. Because we want to give you a gauge of which one is for you. The other two kind of in between ones, which are moderate and challenging, are generally where a lot of our trips sit.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can fall into either or. Now we've chosen, like for instance, with Everest Base Camp, in our opinion, it is challenging, but in terms of the difficulties that we've got, we changed it to moderate in terms of the difficulty. Doesn't mean that means it's easy. It just means it's maybe not as hard as the other ones we've put in there, because we didn't want it to be like the end of the gauge, which is the tough ones. We're looking at Aconcagua, we're looking at the summits of fire, which I would say probably some of the hardest trips that we do right now.
Yeah.
It might change over the next couple of years as we release some more epics, which we're certainly planning to do. But for us, the moderate was a good gauge because it means it kind of sits kind of right in the middle in terms of the treks that we do, because you've then got one like you look at the 3 Peaks 3 Passes, or actually called the 3 Passes now.
3 Passes, yeah.
Which we adjusted last year, or you've got something like K2 Base Camp, or even looking at what was the other trip I was thinking, like the Ring of Fire. It sits in that kind of challenging bracket.
The Ring of Fire. The
Ring
trek,
of Fire,
more
trek,
trecky, yeah.
Trek.
Yeah, because we started out with the Summits of Fire, didn't we?
We did.
And then we realized that was really tough.
That was a beast.
That was really tough.
Exactly.
It's like doing 3 Kilimanjaros in a week.
Exactly. You put that down.
Fact,
I mean, that's going to be a tough week, but it's certainly achievable. And I think that's what we wanted to kind of gauge with, get across with the gauge, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
For it.
One of the other things as well, I think it is important as well. It's strange for me to talk about the mindset stuff more than you, actually.
Mate, you go for it.
Yeah, but what I like is to have an honest assessment of where you are in terms of your fitness level when you go on the trek as well. Because some people will probably go on EBC, come back and say, what are you on about? That was not moderate. Now, taking altitude issues aside, because that can affect anyone.
Yeah.
I would say 99% of the time, whenever I've been on these trips, if someone follows the mountain rules, trek slow, drink, and stuff like that, the fitter they are, the easier it is.
Yeah.
I've known really fit people do Everest Base Camp, nice and slow, nice and gentle. Sure, there are some uphill days. Sure, it's challenging. Sure, it's tough.
Yeah.
But actually was well within their capability that made it moderate.
Yeah.
But if you go there and you're relatively unfit, which we've all been there, and, you're not, poor cardio, not that strong. Yeah. You haven't got mountain miles in your legs, so they're feeling like overly exerted every time you go up a hill.
Yeah.
EBC can be absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it can.
So it is honest.
First time I went there, and before Evertrek was a thing, and it was certainly challenging. I mean, I was in winter, but it was still hard because I didn't know the kind of levels of fitness that you needed.
Yeah.
And I was really interested in coming back and in going back numerous times in better shape with a different mind, and how much more enjoyable it can be. Yeah, no,
exactly. And the mountain rules make a big difference as well, I think, because we have seen people who are super fit that should have trashed EBC, not literally, but in terms of the challenge, and actually really, really struggled because they treated the first 2 or 3 days like a challenge, in terms of be first, be fastest. And EBC and our trips are not about first or fastest. No. It's about sort of achievement and experience is the two most biggest things, I think,
So I'm just reading some of the comments. Yeah, it's a miserable day in Brecon today. Oh, Scott, it's still great to be out there, though. I hope all is well. Sophie, EBC was really challenging because I didn't train enough. But Sophia, that sometimes, isn't it? We can put ourselves down these situations sometimes, which is natural. Especially if we're doing lots of trips. But no, you did really well, and you got there in the end. That's the most important thing. However you've got there, but you did it, and some of those pictures, mate, were absolutely fantastic. Jerome, Tengboche Hill equals Kili Summit night.
I'm not sure about that, Jerome. Kili Summit night, it's 12 hours long. Tengboche Hill's only like 2-3.
3, yeah. But it's still at that point in the journey, it can be hard.
Yeah, no.
But it's great though, Jerome, because it's that you've obviously done a few different trips now, and you can get in your mind what the difficulty is.
Yeah.
I suppose the big point of all of this, as Dave said, is that it can be it can be more difficult at different points in your journey. You know, and I suppose to make it easier on yourself is, you know, always that we believe that anyone can do these things. Anyone can go on these treks, but there is a but you have to be prepared to train for it and earn it. You know, you can turn up, you can struggle. That gauge will then go up a notch, but you know, it's still achievable for you.
Yeah, but it's a battle.
But it's a battle, exactly.
I seen Lee Wyatt's comment there. That is a
Lee.
man. That is a man that's done the fan dance
because
a few times. I guarantee.
Yeah.
You know the amount of times that we've been trekking and doing our gentle horseshoe and enjoying ourselves,
enjoying the views,
and then we see the military guys coming up Jacob's ladder on the other side. It's
a good challenge that I've heard. But it's been good though. We've had some questions, and I think it's good to let's switch on to the different trips now. So, for instance, I noticed that someone there, if I can find it, go on. Keep it clean, Lee.
Amazing.
Good comment though. Good comment, mate. I'm just trying to pull this question. I think I'll bring it up here because I believe Anne was talking about Machu Picchu Hidden Valley, and I suppose brings a good kind of question really around also throwing that into the equation about the Inca Trail, because the Inca Trails can be challenging, and the Hidden Valley, which is the Tomakea route, the one we started, we launched it during COVID, but we ran our first trips there last year, and I went out there in September. It's absolutely fantastic, the Hidden Valley route. It does drop down onto the Inca Trail. But it's absolutely fantastic. It is, I would say, personally more challenging than the Inca Trail, purely because of the altitude. You do go over 4,900 meters, so it's pretty substantial altitude. Not for a long period of time, but anytime you're up there for 50 minutes, half hour, it's hard work. Whereas the Inca Trail, the highest point when you go over Dead Woman's Pass, I think, is just under 4,300 meters. So that 600 meters, it doesn't seem like a lot, but at that height, it can be. But yeah, so if you were weighing up Inca Trail and the Hidden Valley, and which one was for you? Again, you know, if you're out there walking in the hills, you know, obviously here in the UK or wherever you're watching this from today, if you're out there and you can do anything between kind of like, you know, 4 to 6 hours a day, I would say you're in the kind of right place. Obviously, the more that you're out there, the better. You know, you don't have to be a superhero or super fit, but it does help. You know, that's kind of what we're trying to get across. And certainly, whichever one you choose, you know, that I'd say the Tomakea is probably a bit more epic because of the ascent of the high pass, which is called Tokto Pass, at 4,900 meters, whereas the Inca Trail is more of a general sort of gradual up until you get to the Dead Woman's Pass, which that's a top name, isn't it?
Who died there?
Some woman.
Yeah.
Don't know who it was. Sorry, it was a long time ago. I think it's of an Incan legend. I can't remember the story. If anyone knows why it's called that, definitely drop in the comments.
Awesome. Izzy has asked a good question here. Izzy Arthur, which I'll take on. So
I can find it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see.
There we go. So I'm generally fit and active, but haven't had access to doing many mountains or long treks recently. I'm generally doing lots of walking and hiking, but think I'm going to be relying on mainly my general fitness for EBC. Will this be okay? So yeah, Izzy, I mean, if your general fitness is pretty good, then absolutely it's going to be okay. We always say that there's no real substitute for training for the mountains by going to the mountains. You know, you get mountain fit, your legs will develop strength, you'll get used to the endurance. However, it's not the be all and end all. So if you are able to train just by, you know, going for runs and walks outside your house, if you can try and get in some hills, that would be great. If you can't get many hills in, I'd substitute that with some strength training like squats and lunges and things like that. But other than that, as long as you're doing something and you're not rolling off the couch and going to EBC, generally speaking, you're in a better position.
Definitely.
So if your fitness is already at a pretty decent standard and, you know, you can do a nice long day hiking and not feel completely trashed for a week, then absolutely, you're gonna be in good shape for EBC.
Yeah, and Izzy, you can do it. Like I said, if you're generally very fit and active, but you know, as Dave said, you know, not everyone lives next to a mountain, and sometimes, you know, you do have to maybe you know, pick a couple of days and just maybe drive. I'm not sure where you live, but if if you can, like literally on Friday, we had a spare day and we went up to North Wales. And, we got up really early. I think we left just about 6 o'clock. Got up to Cadair Idris just after 9, and we're out all day. And then we didn't get back till probably 7, 8 o'clock. But it was a long day. But sometimes, isn't it? You want to get out and go to the mountains. And obviously, we're very lucky. We've got Banau Brycheiniog here.
Yeah.
About 45 minutes from our homes. So it's easy to get to those. But you want to mix it up sometimes and something a bit harder. So, yeah, even though it might be a bit further afield, if you can do like one of them a month, and, obviously that the cost is time because you've got a lot of traveling time there, but that cost is worth it.
Yeah.
The cost of not doing that and not being, out in the mountains and as fit could be more. So, yeah, something to just put into the equation, I think, if you can, obviously if you've got access to a car or if you can get to these regions, although it might be tough, it's worth it if you can, mate.
Cadair is great as well.
Oh, I loved it. Brilliant. Highly recommend Cadair Idris. I've been up there a couple of times, but it's fantastic.
This is my first time on Friday going to Cadair Idris.
Enjoyed
it? Never done it. And it was amazing. It's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite hike in the UK. You
enjoyed that route?
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, the route that we chose, Andy chose, was pretty good. So we went up, I said it was like Stepageddon.
Stepageddon.
So
that's a good training program.
Yeah, as soon as you start, like if you can get it by the way, so, Izzy's I think is fine. She's a rugby player, a rower, runs. You're gonna be cool. If you can get to a gym and get on a Stairmaster, then you're gonna be absolutely amazing. Because I wish I had spent more time on the Stairmaster when we started Cadair Idris, which is like car, resting heart rate, steps per hour.
It was brilliant.
Also, I did a stupid idea on it. I was really tired, so I drank a can of Monster, which is rare.
Yeah,
that's the sugar-free one.
Not good for you, Dave.
No, so I drank just to kind of like keep myself, because I was feeling a bit sleepy in the car. So I thought, I need to perk up a little bit. Don't normally have energy drinks, but I thought I'll treat myself to one. My God, was it horrible. Like my heart rate was just all off that's it. Yeah. Miniford Pass?
Minford, yeah. We did part of it. Yeah, we started on that, but there's 3 different routes up there. I think the other is called the Fox. There's one called the Pony Route. Not the Pony Track. The Pony Route. We did a bit of a hybrid. We call it the reverse figure 8. I'll share it in the group actually because it's a really good route.
And we go instead of like wide around the lake, we go like hug the lake.
Yeah.
And then there's a little like
scree slope.
Couloir.
There is,
a
little bit of a couloir.
Where we go up like the scree slope, bit of scrambling, and then we turn around and go back
down the Miniford.
Yeah,
which is a beast of a descent. Good training for the legs though, and as we all know, if you're going up, you got to come down, and on the descent, it's good training for your legs. It's a really good route. That I'd say anyone that's going to Kili, Everest Base Camp, Machu Picchu, Toubkal, doing that is absolutely brilliant. And Lee mentions the Welsh 3000ers then. Also a bit of a beast. If you want to do it in 24 hours, we like to take our time on these mountains. But yeah, if you want to do it, then it's absolutely brilliant. Pritesh, I did the Pony Route, Welsh 3-Peak Challenge. Yeah, I've heard it's a good route. We did a little bit of a hybrid. Pretty much whenever I look at a route, I always look and I kind of draw my own, if it's possible, without climbing gear, which it was. And then that's the way we went. It was good.
Yeah.
Really good questions today, though. I'm loving the comments. Great to see people are out and about as well. And we've got some treks on the horizon. Diane, I hope you're well. Really look forward to Machu Picchu, Tomakea route next April. Rob's coming. Awesome. I know you did Kili together. Getting more training in soon. Snowdonia of all the Kili team, Evertrek family.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it, Diane. I hope all is well, mate. Great to see you on the live as well.
Lee's on form today. Welsh 3 Peaks, 17 hours, and I had regrets. Yeah.
Jerome, actually, because Jerome, apologies, I know you posted this question twice. What can we and I expect in terms of difficulty on the new Blancmont?
The Blancmont.
Other way around. Mont Blanc track. Yeah, it's so that is, I would say, a moderate. So I would say similar, and I'd say easier than Everest Base Camp. You're not as high, so the altitude doesn't play as much as a factor. As with any trek, it's going to be a challenge, but because of the length of time you got to trek each day, but it's easier than Everest Base Camp. It's easier than Kili, and I know you've done both. So yeah, mate, you'll be fine. You'll enjoy that. It's certainly, you still get just as much epic views. The Alps are fantastic, and especially going over when we start in Courmayeur, we go over Val Ferret Pass. It's it's a fantastic route.
Yeah.
Over there, and obviously you go through the 3 countries as well, so Italy into France, and then Switzerland, and back over into Italy. Yeah, it's a really you've chosen a really good trip there, mate.
Awesome.
For next year. Yeah, exciting times. So yeah, in terms of difficulty, I'd put that in the moderate bracket, as it is, which is easier than the other 2 that you've done.
Awesome.
Although I want to hear your feedback on that though, Jerome, after next year.
Yeah.
I want to see what your gauge is back at that time, mate.
Wicked. Emily Cuthell has said, what would you say is the hardest trip we offer?
Oh, hey, Emily, how are you? Good to see you on the live. Dave, go on.
I'd probably say Aconcagua is probably the hardest that we offer. Just in terms of its altitude, it's the highest mountain outside the Himalaya.
Yeah.
Annoyingly just shy of 7,000 meters.
Just take a ladder with us.
Yeah, take a ladder or something like that, just so you can get up there. But
7,000.
But yeah, probably Aconcagua in terms of that, because the altitude is starting to play a real hand. Altitude is tough when you go, to Toubkal at 4,100 and change, but it's a lot tougher when you get to like 7,000 meters. Like that's serious mountain territory. Also, it's a huge, vast mountain. So it's actually a long trudge to get up and down.
Proper expedition.
And also we do a lot of acclimatizing in the neighboring Velocitos range.
Yeah.
So you'll actually summit like quite a few different mountains. So I would say, that is definitely in the final tough category / epic.
Definitely. Excuse me. Yeah, it was definitely Aconcagua's. At least for the next 12 months, could be the hardest one that we do. It's definitely a beast. I think Summits is up there. Summits of Fire, because you've got Chimborazo, Cotopaxi, unfortunately, which is closed at the moment because it's geothermally active. But because of the amount of peaks you've got to do in a certain amount of time, even though it might not be as high as Aconcagua, the Summits is definitely a beast, definitely. But having had Evertrekkers on there, they loved it.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it because it was so hard. And I think if you go into it knowing, because it's called Summits of Fire, it's going to be hard. That's why we kind of labeled it as we have as tough, because it's definitely a tough one. But Pratesh says, if you're using Haribos or Mars bars, maybe bring it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
No energy drinks. It's not
good for your heart. Avoid them. No, they're horrendous. The heart rate was just out of control going up the steps. But Mars bars, I'm a Mars bar fan. Prefer Mars bar over Snickers.
Oh, I don't know. I'm a Snickers person.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I've changed. I used to be Snickers, but now I'm definitely Mars.
You've gone for it. I'm trying to find Ross. Hey, Ross, how you doing? I know you've posted.
He 20 years ago in the Himalaya.
Oh, you've got it there, Dave.
We took supplies for schools. Has it moved on or still needing stuff?
Yeah, fantastic question as well. Sorry, I'm just trying to find your question there, Ross, to bring it into the live, because amazing that you went there 20 years ago. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
It has moved on a lot. There's a lot more infrastructure now in the Himalayas. That doesn't mean that it's, as good here in the UK. It's still third world country. It's still very poor. I think anything that you do for schools and supplies, I know we got a lot of Evertrekkers that bring stuff. If they're over in Nepal running, on trips of ours, they do bring stuff. And we'll say, it's absolutely fantastic. And if you did that again, we can find a use for it in some of the schools, or even some of the actual places in Kathmandu as well, which, Kathmandu definitely struggled more during the pandemic than some of the villages, just because they kind of, you haven't got the land to sustain your life.
Yeah,
it was quite hard for the people in Kathmandu. So sometimes the schools in Kathmandu can benefit from it as well. But yeah, Ross, drop us a message. Obviously, if you're coming on I take it you booked on one of our trips, or you're due to go back or thinking about going back. Obviously, we'd love to help you.
Yeah,
be part of that journey. Definitely hit us up. Drop us a direct message or drop us an email. We'd love to kind of make that happen for you. And this goes to anyone that wants to bring anything. If you can squeeze some stuff in your bag to bring it over to Nepal or any of our trips, it all helps. To give it to some of the school kids or maybe the orphanage. Some people have brought, and this isn't a request right now, but just as an example, some people have brought some old laptops and things they wanted to kind of give away, and we can certainly find use for that in at the office in Nepal. But like our team there is about 20 strong, so there are people that we can use. Some of the stuff in Kathmandu as well.
Awesome.
But yeah, lovely, great thought, Ross. Thanks so much, mate.
Des Lally, how's it going, Des?
Hey, how you doing, Des? Good to hear from you, mate.
Yeah, Des, awesome guy, by the way. If any of you want to check out, he's always doing some sort of crazy fundraising. He climbed Penavan every day for a year.
He did.
24 hours of rugby on the summit of Penavan.
Yeah.
Various other adventures as well.
Penavan plungers. I know we've been, Des, we really need to go, and I've noticed you've been in there recently and had a dip in the stream. I'll have to join you, mate. It's been too long.
Yep. Awesome. He said, "What's the most interesting tip you offer?"
Really good.
That is a difficult one to answer, to be honest, because it depends on what you're interested in. I guess if you're interested in, my opinion, I think the Himalaya in Nepal is the most interesting because of several reasons.
Yeah,
they're the biggest mountains in the world.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's steeped in mountaineering history. Also, then there is the cultural history.
Yeah.
Very, very rich and, amazing culture with all the different deities and belief systems and sort of the temples.
That's
and
true, actually. Yeah.
It's,
culturally, it's amazing.
It goes back a long way. And then also, you've got the mountaineering history. Then you've got the mountains themselves that are fascinating, those biggest mountains in the world.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it is. But, if you're interested in ancient artifacts and history, and you might think Machu Picchu is the best, for instance,
exactly, yeah, like going to Machu Picchu in Peru is really cool. I know what you mean, though. Like, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it depends. It does depend on what interests you, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we're thinking of different, some of the trips we do, like in Ecuador, the Ring of Fire and the Summits of Fire are very different because you're going on, like, it's very remote. You won't see many other people on the mountains. It's some of the mountains that you go on is absolutely fantastic. So that could be a really, really interesting one. But yeah, I think you're right. The Himalayas are something, isn't it? I mean, we just had our first ever trekkers come back from K2 Base Camp as well, which was really cool.
Again, yeah.
That is also, I know because of the history of it, because of the epicness of K2, that would be it's a challenging one as well. Like, and again, looking at the difficulty levels, it's definitely a step up from, say, Everest Base Camp, more in line with like the 3 passes, but even then, a lot more remote, no infrastructure whatsoever once you're onto the Baltoro Glacier on the way to Concordia and then K2 Base Camp. Absolute epic. But that, like, for some people, like I know for yourself, would be really interesting.
Yeah, no, K2 is a big bucket list of mine. I love the mountaineering history of these places. There's an amazing book. I can find the title of it in my audiobook section, but it tells the story of 2 K2 expeditions. One of them is the original one, and then one of them is one of the more dangerous ones that was in a documentary, and it's by Ed Vistias. This book.
What's it about K2?
That's amazing. Yeah, it's called.
I haven't read it.
It's this is it here.
Is it literally called K2?
Yeah, so K2. So I'll see if I can get
literally downloading it on Audible now.
The Life and Death on the World's Most Dangerous Mountain, which isn't technically correct because that's Annapurna. But that book, K2, Life and Death on the World's Most Dangerous Mountain by Ed Vistias and David Roberts. Ed Vistias is an amazing guy who's done all 14 summits.
First American, yeah.
Without oxygen, I believe.
Some of them he did. No, he did. If I'm right, I think he was just the first American to climb all 14,000. Second, after Jerzy Kukuczka, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. Maybe that's what it was without O2 then. I got to research.
I'm thinking it was without O2.
Okay. But maybe you're right, because he was a big non-O2.
Yeah. I'm not 100%, but I'm going to look it up now using my technology.
This is it. We're on good. Let's have a look. It's like cool. First American to climb. I thought
there's more of a sentence there.
It's a big one. This is what
he was the first American and the 5th person to do so without using supplemental oxygen.
There we go.
Yeah,
so first American.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, very cool guy though. There's a book called No Shortcuts to the Top. Really, really interesting guy. Spent a lot of his time climbing Mount Rainier in the US before he started essentially climbing mountains. Obviously in the Himalayas, and absolutely fantastic. Great book. No Shortcuts to the Top. I read that many moons ago whilst I was on a trek, and absolutely fantastic. It's great to see it from their point of view. He's massive on safety. You know, he's kind of old school, and I would say, you know, the mountains miss these type of people at the moment. Unfortunately, is that these people? It's not just about the summit; it's about getting safely down. And you know, he's the type of guy that would help other people who are struggling. Where, unfortunately, it's a little bit different like that on the mountains at the moment, especially on Everest and K2. It's unfortunately a bit different.
Well, he coined the getting to the top is optional, getting down is mandatory. He's sort of one of those. He's cut from the old school that actually did it for the love of the mountain and understand what it means, but also had a level of realism about him that he understood that no summit and no amount of money is actually worth someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, so he would turn back on summits to help people and things like that. And that's what I love. Like, imagine that, like all that money and all that time and all that training, but you sacrifice it in order to help someone else. To me is almost a greater achievement than actually reaching the summit.
Bloody right, mate.
You know?
It's great as well. Emily, looking at she wants to do Everest 2027, mate, or go for it. 100% you can do it. I know you've been back in the early TTIs when we were chatting about it. I know you were thinking about it then, weren't you? So, mate, but really excited to see how it goes over the next few years. Definitely let us know how you get on, mate. It'd be cool to follow your journey. And I know it's a big change. It's obviously a big outlay, but I know you can do it 100%. Obviously got some kind of bits to do before. Obviously, if you want to do Aconcagua, that's really good prep. I know a lot of Everest climbers who do that, as well as doing maybe another 8,000 meter peak before climbing Everest. Some people do that as well. So definitely, it's highly recommended. Can't wait for you, mate. Really excited.
Awesome.
Right, next questions. I know we've had some really good ones. This one, who was I looking at?
So Claire has asked.
Claire, I think.
Hi, is it better to take mini crampons for the 3 passes? Or are they supplied? No, they'll be supplied for you. So plenty of times you don't actually need them. You know, the passes are actually, you're able to go over them with just your trekking boots. But if there is snow or ice in the area, you know, it can happen in the Himalaya. It's pretty unpredictable weather. You'll be given those universal crampons that sort of fit on any hiking boot, like the micro spike ones, and that's all you need. But they'll be provided for you by the team and the guide. Yeah,
I mean, some people just over the years have preferred to take their own. So if you wanted to, that's fine. Some people do. It kind of an individual thing. But if it's that bad, the team will have them there ready. Because those high passes can be challenging sometimes, and sometimes it is definitely. The weather has been a bit nuts over the last few years, especially kind of like, what was it? Was it in the spring? And we had so much snow. It felt like it was the autumn season.
Yeah, that was
up on some of the peaks, Mara Peak and Island Peak.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy, wasn't it?
Great. That was April, wasn't it? April
back
2019.
in April, No, April this year.
April this year.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Oh, I thought you meant when we went.
No. Just talking about.
Trips. Oh yeah. No, yeah. This year there was a lot. Yeah. This last spring was the weather was
really bad,
really unusual. Absolutely it's been like crazy. That though. I think it's going to get more and more like that with climate change and things like that. It's happening more and more often across the world. That
it's more the norm now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The only place that's sort of immune to it seems to be Wales. They talk about this global boil and stuff like that, but it's yet to.
We still get the rain.
It's yet to reach us.
We still get the rain.
Yet to reach us.
Oh, great stuff. Just reading Emily's. Thanks, guys. My journey will always have began with Evertrek. Got Killy with you guys next year. Island Peak. Mate, that's absolutely going to be fantastic. Awesome. Really exciting. And Lee doing the 3 passes. Yeah, Lee, when is that again? It's not long now, is it? Is it this autumn? I know that when you booked it feels like ages ago you've booked now. But I bet you're really, really pumped for that. Not long at all. And Tina, how you doing, Tina? Nice to see you out in Nepal. I've seen you've been exploring some of our favorite haunts. Absolutely fantastic, mate. I think you're right. Once you do go to Nepal, it certainly grabs you, doesn't it? And doesn't let go. You'll be going back time and time again.
It's one of those countries, I think, that just gets under your skin. Lots of people say it about Africa. You know, once you go to Africa, regardless of which country you visit, you there's so much to explore and it's so diverse that you got to go back. Nepal is like the opposite. It's this tiny little landlocked country in Southeast Asia, but for some reason you go there and it's just so rich in culture and everything. And I don't know, it's I hate to be whimsical, but it's like a magical place for me. You know, it's like
obviously we're biased, you know.
Yeah.
But it's the Himalayas itself is just fantastic. But Nepal's got a soft spot for Nepal, haven't we?
Yeah, I've been to so many countries now around the world, but for some reason, if I'm ever like sat down and just dreaming about a place, my mind always goes back there.
Nice.
Always. Can't help it.
It's an amazing place, isn't it? Just reading some of the Tina, Nagakot and Bhaktapur. Oh, mate, well done. Those are two places, Nagakot and Bhaktapur. Brilliant places, aren't they?
I've been to Nagakot.
Yeah, Nagakot's lovely. Is that the one overlooking Kathmandu Valley?
Overlooking Kathmandu Valley, yeah. I want to. They do mountain biking down there's someone's
really?
It's really steep to get to the top.
Nice.
And they do mountain bike trails down the bottom.
Brilliant.
It's a plan of mine.
Okay.
Got a system.
We'll have to. Well, we're out there in the autumn. We're myself and Dave. We've got a couple of trips this autumn. We're out in Morocco in October.
Toubkal round 3.
Yeah, we got a good Toubkal trip. I believe there's still, was it like 5-6 days to book onto that if someone wants to.
Yeah, you got some time left. I think there's definitely some spaces left. Not a huge amount. Maybe if I can panic Vicky by getting her to get all that information at the very last
she's
minute.
Like, where's the link? Where's the link?
Yeah, I could just see her head bobbing side to side. Okay, I'm going to get that.
But yeah, there are, if anyone wanted to jump on that, I know it's not far away, but I'd love to have you on that. Absolutely really excited. And then we're on a Mera Peak trip in November. So we're really excited about that as well.
Yeah.
Very, very excited.
And then
can't wait to get back to Nepal.
Potentially then somewhere else in January.
Aconcagua in January. So we've got a busy 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Very exciting. There we go. Vicky's put the have I put the wrong one? Sorry, Emily. I literally went to show another one and that came in. But definitely.
Emily Couthill, I fell in love with Nepal, the people, the place, and one person in particular. Oops.
I wonder who that was.
I know.
I know.
That is like the worst comment you can put because now I'm like,
I know. Curiosity now.
Curiosity. Who it is.
But there we go. We put the link on there just if you wanted to head over to the website, have a little look at that trip. 3 spaces available. Okay, so we do have a few spaces there for anyone to jump in. Dave, I think just kind of finalize where we're at then around trek difficulty, because I know we've talked a lot about particular difficulty levels. Obviously, we got the gentle.
Yeah.
We got the moderate. We got challenging. We got tough.
Yeah.
Now, I know they're not necessarily Evertrek words, are they?
Well, we were saying normally they're like, gentle, moderate, challenging.
I know
tough.
they're not really words that we would use.
I feel
generally.
like tough should be epic.
Yeah.
Challenging. Maybe we should put this out there. What do the guys think that would be like if we needed 4 categories for sort of,
So, okay, then gentle. What would everyone want gentle to be? And there's only one gentle trip that we currently do. What would you guys say would be gentle?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Any other words for gentle?
So we've got gentle.
Or Evertrek words for gentle, and it can't be awesome.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Goppin
is a good. That's more ugly though, isn't it? I think
I've never heard of that word.
Goppin, yeah. Like if you say something goppin, it's like usually ugly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Ramble. Ooh, I like ramble. Eileen, that's a good one. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so we got a couple for gentle. Any more that kind of filter through? So what about moderate then? What would we go for kind of in the middle for diddle, kind of moderate? What words would we use for that? Be interesting.
Yeah. Tina's got a good one. Bimble for gentle.
A bimble.
Bimble.
I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah.
And I know one of our old Evertrekkers, Fee, that was definitely because her motto is a bimble is better than a bash.
Yeah.
Definitely. If something is buckshy, it means easy.
Yeah.
Buckshy, okay.
Buckshy.
So bimble's a good one.
So
what about moderate then? Let's see what moderate would be. Because moderate is like an Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
It's like an Annapurna Base Camp. It's something that isn't easy, but it isn't as hard as, say, like going to K2.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what people think about what any other words for moderate. Whilst bimble, steady, and hardcore. Well, steady's good. And then we got challenging. Now, challenging, I don't mind that word.
Challenging's okay.
Because challenging, I mean, they're all challenging.
I mean, tough is probably the one tough and gentle are the ones I don't like.
Okay,
because tough is like, it's subjective. It's too subjective.
So hardcore.
If you change it, yeah.
Tina, is that? I really like hardcore.
Yeah. So if you change tough, tough is tough. They're all tough.
I like Lee's
blowing out your your ace.
Yeah,
I think that's what he meant there. But yeah,
brilliant.
I think tough should be like savagery.
Savagery. I like that one.
Absolute savagery.
Absolute savagery. Okay.
You know, like,
okay, these are good.
You know, like something that's like evocative of, you know.
Yeah, what it actually is. And this is it. Like, as you can imagine, we wanted to use Ron Seal words, you know, it does what it says on the tin type thing. But there are some other words out there, and it's always interesting. And the reason I asked it as well, it'd be good to see what you guys thought about those particular things. Hardcore.
I like Brian. EBC is just a pre-beer stroll.
Pre-beer.
Yeah.
One for the hard one, an effing beast. Yeah, Emily.
Flipping. You could have just said that.
I could have said flipping, yeah.
Yeah, you could have said flipping.
Definitely. There's some good words in here. I'm going to write some of these down and we'll have a chat internally about them. Yeah, because it's been on the agenda. We've been looking at some of these and wondering, you know, because we think that some of them are quite fair, you know, in terms of what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to see some Evertrekkers' perspective on those trips as well, whether they are a pre-beer stall or they are flipping beast.
Yeah. You know what I like? There's an e-mountain bike, right?
Yeah.
And it's got, you know, the settings. You've done the e-bike where you move through them and it's like trail, mountain, and the final one is ludicrous.
Ludicrous.
like it gives you like so much power. It's ludicrous.
Brilliant.
I've always liked that. Like, you know, so if we did like a 3 Peaks challenge, but it was like Aconcagua, Killy, and Elbrus or something like that.
Fantastic.
That challenge level would be ludicrous.
Brilliant. Well, look, a little bit different today, just chatting randomly about difficulties and difficulty levels and gauges. And I hope it's been a little bit useful just chatting about that. Great questions as well. Thanks so much. Nice to see some familiar faces on the live as well. Thanks, Tina, joining us from all the way from Nepal. As always, you know, it's nice to see Bry just before his next pre-beer stroll.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And any further questions off the back of these, do drop us a question. You know, drop us an email or a direct message as well, because you know, we want to make sure that, you know, before you go on any of these trips, you're comfortable in terms of what you're getting yourself into. You know, and we'll give you our honest and say, look, this is a, you know, it's a moderate or as we call maybe a bit more of a bimble. You know, it's definitely any trip that we do is challenging in some form. It's just, you know, if we can try and make that gauge as understandable as possible, then you can make the decision on which one you're going to go for next.
Yeah.
You know, we hope that helps give some context about the, you know, the types of trips and things that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it for today. Any final thoughts, Dave, off the back of that?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was hoping to go to Machu Picchu at some point.
I see.
I'll be honest, I don't want to pay.
You don't want to pay?
Could you help me out there?
I think we can potentially help you out because I think if Vicky's still listening, she might still be listening. Yeah, obviously, if anyone hasn't registered yet, we do have a little competition at the moment going to Machu Picchu. So definitely get yourself entered. I think Vicky is going to drop this in the comments. She's literally finding the link now.
She's scrambling.
She's scrambling over to get the link to join the. Literally, it'll be in the comments. And get yourself in. I know a lot of you have already. I think we've still got 2 weeks left before we announce the winner, which will be on the 22nd. I got that many entries. I stopped getting emails. Is that what it is? Oh, sorry about that, Lee. I'll make sure you get more emails this time, mate. Definitely. So we know. Here it is. It's there. Awesome. Winner Trek Machu Picchu. Great stuff. There
awesome.
It is.
But yeah, no. Other than that, yeah. Final words, I guess. I think that, you know, obviously all of our treks, they're all tough.
Yeah.
You know, how tough largely depends on you, how much training, fitness you're willing to put in to make these things easier or harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you want to know, you know, if you want an adventure, all adventures should be tough. They should have some risk. They should be challenging, and it should push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. There should be moments when you're on that trip and you think, "Wee," and then when you get back, you think, "Oh, that was awesome! Did it?" You know, that's what true adventure is all about. That's what we try and build into these trips. Yeah. And yeah. That's what we love about it.
I love that as well. I think Tina's replied to Danny there because he was asking, where on the scale of difficulty does Annapurna circuit? And Tina says, bloody awesome.
Nice.
I think I agree with that. But yeah, it's actually, I mean, in our current one, which our current gauge is challenging. So I would say it's up there with, you know, K2 Base Camp. It's up there with the 3 Passes trek. It's a toughie. Definitely. But it's, you know, more than achievable. It's a circular route, obviously circuit. You do go above 5,000 meters, so it's it is a toughie. But as Tina says, bloody awesome. So yeah, definitely get yourself have a little look at that, Danny, as well. And I know it's no worries coming late to the party. We're here every week at 12:30, unless we're away or off in the mountains or anything. But drop in.
I love Lee's one. The hardest one should just be called "Living the Dream."
I like that
because everyone says that. How are you finding it today, mate? Living the dream, mate. Living the dream.
Is that what it is? Okay.
That's what it is.
Awesome.
Love that.
Great stuff, everyone. Lovely to see you all. We'll be back next week. And have an awesome week, whatever you're up to. If you can get to Cadair Idris, do it. If not, get to the nearest mountain. Have fun.
Yeah.
Stay safe. And we'll see you next week.
Actually, if you go into either mine or Andy's Strava, you'll see the route.
Oh, that's a good shout, actually.
Good shout, yeah.
The figure of 8. And it takes into account a few different routes on Cadair Idris. So good luck. All the best.
Awesome. Take it easy.
Bye.